All right. Welcome back to Empowered Esquire TV. So, as you can see from the title, today we are discussing, I think we should say in the chronicles of FDMG and its proprietor. Today we are discussing the cease and desist letter and the applicable law that goes along with that letter that was served. Yeah, you see the title. Umar Johnson got served, right? And so did FDMG. So let me hop into the chat and say hello to everyone. Hello to everyone who is watching. Please hit that like button, share the video, and if you are not subscribed, why not be? It is a free way to help the channel move on up in Miss Algo and get the information shared with other people. Hello to Empress Kaya. Hello to Black Anonymous. Hello to Sis Zakia. Hello to Miss Mara Sharice. How are you, darling? Hello to Love to Travel the Wave. I hope I got that right. Hello to Shanoa. Oh, Shanoa, how have you been? Long time no see. How are you? I hope you're well. Hello to Misty. Hello to Sexy Star. Long time no see for you as well. Lord Von Manor, I think you're a newbie. So welcome. Welcome to the EETV family. Hello to the Zone. I think the Zone is also a newbie, so welcome to you. Hello to Let Me See Your Transcript. Hello to Zeb, all the way from Denver. What's up, Zeb? Denver is a really cool city. I love your city, Zeb. Welcome. Hello to some chick named Star, another person that we haven't seen in a while. How are you? How you been? Hello to, here we go, Chakra King Black. I think we haven't seen you in a while either, unless you're a newbie. Newbie over here. Hello to Wisdom Over Feelings. How are you? You know, I'm gonna start doing that roundup. You know, they would do in church where they would say, if it is your first time here. So let's do it. If it is your first time here, if you are a newbie and it is your first time here, and you would like to be recognized for joining the EETV family, let us know in the chat and we will give you said recognition. All right. All right. So listen, we are going to get into this. So I have a copy of the actual cease and desist that was sent. I've also pulled up the applicable law that was mentioned in the cease and desist. And we're going to have a conversation about charitable organizations, about the law that governs charitable organizations, and what is the future of this FDMG situation. Okay. Arrogant Pupil, Sylvia Arnold, Sharon Brooks, and Terry the Notary Public. All right. Oh, Misty is a newbie. Okay, Misty. Shout out to Misty. She's a newbie. Arrogant Pupil is also a newbie. All right. So welcome, welcome, and welcome. Okay. So listen, without further ado, we are going to hop right on into the topic. Okay. Now, if you are already familiar with cease and desist letters, give me a Y in the chat. If you think that I'm pretty familiar with a cease and desist and I don't really need an explanation of what a cease and desist is, give me a Y in the chat. Put an N in the chat if you think, actually, I would like you to explain what they are. Oh, we got another newbie. Hello to Malika Stone. Welcome, newbie. We got to get a welcome song, but not one of those old school church welcome songs because those are just, and I don't have an organist here. All right, so I'm seeing mostly N. So most of you want me to talk about and explain what a cease and desist is. All righty, so let's do that first then. So a cease and desist is usually, right, drafted by an attorney, and it is served by said attorney or said attorney's law firm. And that cease and desist, now in this case, our cease and desist is served by the Secretary of State, right? But that's also fine. A government entity can, of course, serve a cease and desist just as a law firm or an attorney can, right? So a cease and desist is a letter or a correspondence which pretty much says, hey, you are doing something that is illegal. You are doing something that you could either be sued or arrested for. Here is the law that you're violating with whatever it is you're doing. And before I move forward with action against you, I am giving you the opportunity to stop it. Hence why it is called a cease and desist, because in essence, they're asking the person to stop doing something, to cease doing something, right? All right, one more time. So a cease and desist is a correspondence usually drafted by an attorney, and it can be sent from a government entity or a private law firm. It says to the person that it is addressed to, you are doing something that is illegal. I could sue you for whatever it is you're doing, or I could charge you with a crime for whatever it is you're doing. Here is the law that you're violating. You need to stop immediately before I move forward with further action. That is a cease and desist, everyone. All right. I hope that explanation did it. That's about as simple as it gets. But if you're still murky on what a cease and desist is, let me know in the chat and I'll see if I can break it down any further. I started out the live in a sweater. Mind you, I'm audio only, so it's not like I have ring lights on or anything, but ooh, I'm getting kind of warm here. So as I take off my sweater, I'm in the chat. So Star says, so it's a warning. Exactly. Exactly. A cease and desist is a warning. It is someone saying, before I take further action against you, I'm giving you a chance. I'm warning you. I'm telling you, stop doing what you're doing. All right. So now I'm going to share my screen and we're going to take a look at the actual cease and desist that FDMG and its proprietor, Umar Johnson, was served with. All right. So here we go. Here we are. So this is a copy of the actual cease and desist. You see at the top, it has the seal of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Department of State, Bureau of Corporations and Charitable Organizations. So as you know, we hit the hot topics here, right? But we are all about learning. So let me take a moment for us to have a teaching moment. So every state is going to have their own department or Bureau of Corporations and Charitable Organizations. Usually, that bureau or that department is a part of the office of the Secretary of State. And so, for every state, when you want to file a business that is incorporated in that state, you have to go through their Secretary of State and their Department of Corporations, whoever that may be in your state, right? Let me see, your transcript has a song. Let's see. Oh, wow. Cease and desist letters. Cease and desist letters. Okay, I'm not even going to try to pretend that I can. Let's not. Let's just skip it over. Hello to Nappy Yankee. Hello to D Calico. Let's clarify this, shall we? So, is a cease and desist a demand? No. So a cease and desist can be a demand when it is coming from law enforcement or a governmental agency. But the reason why I initially say no is because it is not a demand when it is coming from a private party. So if you receive a cease and desist from a private law firm because they're being represented by, I don't know, you think of some really, really popular YouTuber, the Ace family, right? And they want you to stop speaking about them, that is not a demand. That's a request. But a cease and desist from law enforcement or a governmental agency, yeah, that's equivalent to a demand. So just making sure we're clear on that. Okay. So now that you've got the gist of Secretary of State, let's move further. So we see this is in the matter of Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey RBG Leadership Academy. If you're not familiar with Umar Johnson, that is the name of the school that he alleges to be opening for, I believe, boys. I believe it's boys only, right? And then here is the date of the correspondence, okay? So now we get into it. So as of this fourth day of March 2022, the acting secretary, pause, remember I said that, anything to do with corporations and charities goes through who? The Secretary of State. All right. The acting secretary of the Commonwealth, having found that Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey RBG Leadership Academy is not registered with the Department of State's Bureau of Corporations and Charitable Organizations, and or has failed to submit all requested documentation to the Department of State, in accordance with the Pennsylvania Solicitation of Funds for Charitable Purposes Act, hereby orders Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey RBG Leadership Academy to immediately cease and desist from soliciting contributions on behalf of or as a charitable organization, or conducting any services of a professional fundraising council or professional solicitor in Pennsylvania, until such time as it provides the Department of State, Bureau of Corporations, and Charitable Organizations with all previously requested information, and duly registers or provides information that is excluded or exempt from registration, as determined by the Department of State, Bureau of Corporations, and Charitable Organizations. Okay, as I always say, that was a lot of legalese. So let's break that down. Now, remember, this correspondence is from Pennsylvania, right? Now, to my knowledge, the actual property that was purchased is in Delaware, right? So you may be wondering, if the property that was purchased is in Delaware, then why is Umar Johnson and FDMG receiving correspondence from Pennsylvania? Let me see a one in the chat if you thought, why is Umar Johnson receiving correspondence from Pennsylvania when the actual location of the property that is allegedly FDMG is in Delaware? Give me a one in the chat if that's one of your questions. And hello to society. Oh, am I going to mess up your name? We're going to say SC, as I always do. And hello to Swan X as well. All right. Hello to Karen J. Oh, I put up the wrong comment. Hello to Karen J. How are you, darling? All right. So I see a lot of ones. Okay. So a lot of you wondering why that is. All right. So Mara Charisse has part of the answer, but kind of. Okay. So Mara Charisse says, is it because he incorporated in PA? Okay. So that could be part of it, right? That could be part of it. But the biggest issue is, as a charitable organization, whenever you are in a particular location and you are soliciting donations for that charity, you have to be known to the Secretary of State in that area, right? So, and you have to continue to make yourself known, by the way. So let's go with Mara's scenario and say, okay, well, Pennsylvania is contacting him because he's incorporated there. Okay, well, that's fine and dandy, but he has to continue to keep his incorporation and his tax exempt status valid and current with Pennsylvania. It's not just filing once and that's it, right? He has to continue to let them know that it is still a tax exempt organization. He has to continue to file tax documentation with the state of Pennsylvania. He has to continue to make the state of Pennsylvania aware of what donations are being collected if he intends on continuing to solicit donations via the state of California, via the state of Pennsylvania. I did not have coffee before this live. Don't blame me. Okay. So the state of Pennsylvania is still involved, right? Either A, because of Mara's very educated guess, which is because he was incorporated there, or B, because he continues to solicit donations via the state of Pennsylvania. Either way, the Secretary of State of Pennsylvania is implicated. Okay. Let's move on to the second section. Respondent may also be subject to formal administrative action, which could result in the imposition of administrative fines up to $1,000 per violation of the act, plus an additional penalty of $100 per day for each day the violation continues. Okay. So now they're also saying, not only are we telling you to stop soliciting donations, we are also telling you that if we catch you soliciting donations when your status as a charity in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania is currently not current, right? we can fine you for every single time that you do that. So that means if Umar Johnson was to be at an event in Pennsylvania right now, and he were to ask 5 or 6 different people to donate to FDMG, each time that he requested donations, each time would be considered him breaking this entire cease and desist that he has now from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So he could be fined $1,000 for continuing to solicit or for continuing to request donations for FDMG. Now, here's something else to consider. Is it possible that because the actual property is in Delaware, right? Umar Johnson actually has a current status. So FDMG actually has a current charitable status in Delaware. Is that possible? Yes. Could I speak to that at this time? No. But it is possible. What we do know here is that their charitable status in Pennsylvania is not current and is not valid. That we do know. Okay. So now you see here in this first paragraph that they mention the Pennsylvania, one moment, let me get to it. The Pennsylvania Solicitation of Funds for Charitable Purposes Act. So that is an actual thing, right? It's a law. And we are going to head into that next. And we're going to break down what that law means and what is it that Umar Johnson is required to do to make FDMG current again so that he can continue to solicit donations. All right. So I'm in the chat. Let's see here. Hello to Marquise Dillinger. Hello to Robert Sheridan. Hello to Pretoria Afro. All right. Black Anonymous telling us that Umar Johnson incorporated in PA, right, with a certain EIN, and that EIN is no longer valid. Interesting. I imagine that is a problem for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, right? I imagine that the Commonwealth wants a current EIN for all of its allegedly charitable organizations. So I imagine that is not going to go well. Robert Sheridan says the IRS is coming next. Ooh, okay. He could be. They could be, I should say. So here's another thing. When someone is running a charitable organization or a 501c3, right, they have to be granted that status by the IRS. Now, you can have a state status, meaning you can be tax exempt in, the state of Pennsylvania or the state of Delaware. And I believe I had heard a while back that Umar Johnson was, touting about this tax exempt status in the state of Delaware. So, yes, you can be exempt in a state, but that is not the same as being exempt in the eyes of the IRS. You have to go through the process with the IRS in which they say, yes, you are a 501c3 organization. So let's say you do go through that process. Then there are a slew of documentation and other requirements you have to meet. All right. And one of the things about a 501c3 that many people don't know is a 501c3 is supposed to be a charitable organization. It cannot benefit or enrich one person. It has to benefit society at large, the public at large, and or whoever their target audience is, right? So FDMG, to maintain a 501c3 status with the IRS, first of all, has to benefit the public. It can't just enrich Umar Johnson, right? It has to benefit the public. Second of all, he has to report donations received to the IRS. He can't just collect donations and then decide, oh, well, it wasn't that much. So no, he has to report donations received to the IRS. If he does not report donations, they will revoke the status. If they can prove, let me add that, if it can be proved that FDMG is actually not charitable, that actually it serves to just enrich Umar Johnson, that is another reason that the status could be revoked. All right. Oh, another newbie. Hello to NJB Thomas. Welcome to the EETV family. All right. Black Anonymous says, hey, Empower, take a moment to look at the 990N that FDMG reported for 2020. It was reported that there were no donations received. So for the year of 2020, Umar Johnson alleged that he received $0 in donations for that entire year. Wow. Okay. Malika reminding us of something that was alleged. So it was alleged that Umar Johnson received a new EIN to obtain the tax exempt status that he currently has. Okay. And let me answer the question about EINs because I get that question a lot. Yes, you can apply for another EIN with another company. Okay, so you'll notice that if someone gets a different EIN, their company name, it may be similar, but it won't be exactly the same because each company has a unique EIN. So one company cannot have more than one, right? But you can apply for as many as you like if you just continue to create new businesses. So, yes. Lord Von Manor says, yes, he claimed $0. You're blowing my mind. $0 for the entire year of 2020? I don't know. I mean, we can't prove it, right? We can't prove it. So I'm going to leave it at that, but that sounds strange. All right. So let me go into the actual law here. So we're going to look at the law that the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania says that Umar Johnson is not in compliance with, why they have told him to cease collecting donations with any connection to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So this is it. This is a Solicitation of Funds for Charitable Purposes Act. And they make it very clear here that the purpose of this act is to regulate charitable organizations, to regulate how they solicit money, to regulate how they obtain property, and to just overall regulate the activity of charities in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Okay? So we really don't need the legislative intent. And quite frankly, we don't need the definitions either, right? Those things are kind of not of importance to us. The powers and the duties of the secretary, we don't need. I kind of briefly mentioned that to you. Okay, so here we go. This gets into what we need. So all charitable organizations have to file a registration statement with the department, as we mentioned previously, right? The statement must be refiled annually. Here we go, everyone. So remember, I said to you, just because he has done something once does not mean he now has this status that he just has forever. So let's say, okay, he registered with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania once. That is not what their law says. Their law says that he has to continue to renew his paperwork. He has to continue to stay current. Or they can do what they're doing now and they can say, hey, stop soliciting donations. Okay? So the statement must be refiled annually and postmarked by the 15th day of the fifth month following the close of its fiscal year in which the charitable organization was engaged in solicitation activities. So the long and short is, initially, Umar Johnson would have had to file a document with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, which is called a registration statement. That statement would have just said, this is FDMG, this is its purpose, and it's a charity. Then he has to continue to file that document every year, confirming that FDMG is still a thing, confirming that it is still a charity, and also listing how much in donations or how much did it garner from its solicitation activities that year. Okay, so we now know that that's required. Now let's move on. So, the filing of the statement, it shall be the duty of the president, chairman, or principal officer of each charitable organization to file the registration statement, financial report, and fee required under this section, right? So, again, that would depend on whoever is listed as that person, but we can give an educated guess that Umar Johnson is noted as the chief executive of FDMG. Okay, that's a pretty educated guess. Otherwise, we would probably be aware of some other chief executive at this point. Okay. Alrighty, so now they go on to say exactly what needs to be noted in the documentation. So, first, the name of the organization, the principal address and telephone number of the organization, the names and addresses of any affiliates which share in the contributions. Okay, so any company or person or project that shared in FDMG's donations, that also has to be reported to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Okay, let me hop on in the chat. You guys are making me laugh. Someone put in the chat, hit the PayPal. I don't know why that's so funny, but it is hilarious. Hit the PayPal. Hit the PayPal. Oh my goodness. Malika Stone says, what has FDMG done for anyone on a charitable level? I think that's a valid question. Does anyone know of, let's do it this way. Give me a Y in the chat if you know of something that was done via FDMG that benefited the public. If you do not know of anything that was done by FDMG that would be considered charitable or for the benefit of the public, give me an N in the chat. Because listen, to be fair, there may be something that we're unaware of. Okay, so give me a Y in the chat if you're thinking, no, FDMG did that thing or this event, and maybe we're unaware, right? Or give me an N in the chat if you're with Malika and you're thinking, I don't think they've done anything. Okay. Lord Von Manor is being silly. Nappy Yankee says, if you notice the other nonprofits on that list, they all show their financials as ranging from anywhere from $450,000 to above $3.5 million. Umar Johnson will have to show his financials and that he collected a lot of money over the years. Exactly. So according to the law that we are reading now, and when you read it in conjunction with the cease and desist, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania is saying if FDMG wants to continue to solicit donations in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and or in connection with any status they have granted by the Commonwealth, they have to disclose their financials on a yearly basis like everyone else. So yes, Nappy Yankee is absolutely correct. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania is telling FDMG you have to disclose your financials. That is exactly what they're saying. Donald Irving Jr., welcome to the chat. Donald Irving Jr. says he is now incorporated in Delaware with a new EIN and tax exempt status. I have heard that as well. Okay? Which is why I said, let's keep in mind, this is the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. This does not affect his Delaware status if he is properly and up to date and current with his Delaware incorporation. Okay, so one more time. This is his status, or rather, this is FDMG's status in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. But if Umar Johnson went through the proper process in Delaware and he incorporated FDMG in Delaware and the status as a charity is up to date and current in Delaware, this status in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania isn't that big of a deal. Okay, remember that. Hello to D Calico. All right, so I see everyone putting an N. Okay, let me see your transcript said maybe the block party. You know what? That's a good point. Let me see your transcript. The block party perhaps could have been considered to be something that benefited the public, right? The public was invited to the block party. Yeah, that could have been seen as for the benefit of the public. I think so. Let me see your transcript. You're right about that. All right. Hello to everyone in the chat. So Kuangja has a good question. Could these donations be used to hire an accountant firm for that charitable organization? Oh, yes, absolutely. So Umar Johnson can hire at any point, at any time, an accountant for FDMG who would do the legwork of making sure that all of the donations are recorded properly, of making sure that the 990s and all of these things are proper, of making sure that all of the IRS filings are up to date, of making sure that all of the Secretary of State filings are up to date. Yes, he could absolutely hire either an attorney that specializes in the incorporation and establishment of nonprofits, or a tax professional that specializes in nonprofit work. That is absolutely something that could be done. All right. I am still in the chat. Yeah, Empress Kaya said it too. The block party. Yeah, the block party could be considered something that was for the public. Yeah. Terry the Notary Public says Umar Johnson had an open house at FDMG for the public several months ago. Interesting. Okay, so that might also be something that was from the public for the public. Black Anonymous has a question. The question is, would this affect electronic donations, Cash App and PayPal from people in PA? Yes. Yes, it would. But again, it depends on his status in Delaware. Because if he has the status in Delaware, there's wiggle room there, right? It's a very weird kind of gray area where he could say, oh, well, technically, I am a charity in the state of Delaware where my property is, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Now, if you're going by the book, yes, a Cash App or a PayPal donation from someone in the Commonwealth is still considered soliciting donations from the Commonwealth. However, if he has a valid status in Delaware, it's a gray area, and it's not very likely that they would come after him for that. All right, Shanoa says, quick question. Is there some type of auditing that automatically occurs with these types of organizations that would have tipped the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania off? Or were they alerted by someone? Awesome question, Shanoa. So yes, the Secretary of State in every state does yearly review of these types of organizations. Just as the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania is saying in their law, you need to be up to date every year. They are reviewing every year. Every year, they are reviewing the financials of these charitable organizations. They are making sure that these charitable organizations are actually charities, right? They are making sure that donations are being reported accordingly. This is something that is done every year. Humble One says the block party was for him. I mean, I wasn't there, so let me see. Your transcript says 107 people in the chat, but only 71 likes. Oh, come on, y'all. Let me log in on my cell phone here and see what's going on. But everyone, it is a free way. Listen, a lot of you say that you want to support the channel, but you don't know how. And this is how. This is how you support the channel. A lot of you say you want to support the channel, but finances. And believe me, I get it, right? But this is a totally free way to support the channel. You hit the like button, and it helps Miss Algo know that Empowered Esquire TV is live, and we're sharing some riveting legal information. All righty. So hit that like button, please. All right. And I'm watching it. I'm going to keep monitoring it. So currently we have a little gap between how many people are in the chat and the like button. So if you're in the chat enjoying this information, you should be hitting the like button so that it can get some more folks. Okay. All righty. Wisdom Over Feeling said, okay, so he threw a block party, but he stated that he only had $3,000 worth of work to be done, but wanted people to donate their time instead. Was that $3,000 for the block party? All right, so Donald Irving is again reminding us, as I've already reminded you, that Umar Johnson and FDMG have a different status in Delaware. Do not forget that. Okay, so like I said, if he is current in Delaware, if he's filing all the documents that he should to report his donations, if he is ensuring to operate as an actual charitable organization in Delaware, and he's current in Delaware, he can still operate, right? This is the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania regulating him with that business and that license. Remember that. Okay. I am in the chat. All right. Hello to Doug. All right. One of the best moderators in the world. Doug is sharing the Cash App. You are definitely encouraged to give to the channel if you feel so called. All right. I always say that your presence and you hitting the like button is more than enough. All right. So it's totally up to you. Gary Hawkins. Oh, thank you. It's all right, Gary. All right. I'm just in the chat. All right. Thank you for supporting the channel, Robert Sheridan. So we're going to go back to this Charities and Solicitation Act now. So here we go. Okay. So the document also has to include the names and addresses of the officers, directors, and trustees. Okay. And again, this is supposed to be filed yearly. So to be a charitable organization in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, you have to file this document every year. All right. And then a copy of a financial report, a copy of any determination of the organization's tax exempt status under the Internal Revenue Code. So what does that mean? That means if the IRS revokes FDMG's 501c3 status, right? FDMG can't just hope that the Commonwealth won't realize. No, 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 no. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania says, hey, you are responsible for making us aware of any changes in your status. Okay? And they go on to note that the organization also has to keep the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania aware of any work that they're doing with any governmental agencies, any registrations they have with any other governmental agencies, and so on and so forth. Okay? They get into some additional filings, but that's not really relevant for us. Okay? And here again, they reiterate that any correspondence that Umar Johnson receives from the IRS in reference to FDMG, he has to file it with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. All right, so they're reminding us of that here. Now, let me mention something very quickly. If you think that you know the difference between being a charitable organization in Delaware and being a charitable organization in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, give me a why. If you're not sure what the difference is and you want to know the major difference between the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania 501c3 and a Delaware 501c3, give me a N in the chat and I'll break that down for you, because there's a big difference and it may or may not be the reason that we see what we're currently seeing. All right. So Malika says no. Wisdom Over Feeling says that Umar Johnson allegedly stated that he only needed $3,000 of work done to get the school up and running. Oh, really? Okay. All right. So I see mostly ends. All right. So here is the light bulb, everyone. So as I'm sure you've picked up already, in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, to be a charitable organization, you have to have a board. And many states are like that, right? Many states require that you have a board and that yearly you renew with the Secretary of State the names of the people on your board, their addresses. That's very par the course, right? That's the norm. But guess what, people? In Delaware, a charitable organization does not have to have a board. In Delaware, a charitable organization can have one executive, one person. So what does that mean? That means to maintain charitable status in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Umar Johnson would have to have a board. But with this status in Delaware, he doesn't have to have a board. So to have a charitable status in Delaware, the only thing Umar Johnson needs is himself. That's it. Whereas in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, he would need to have a board. So the fact that he has allegedly shifted from Pennsylvania to Delaware could be a very, very interesting coincidence, right? because Delaware does not require that you have a board. One person can be the director of an entire charitable organization in Delaware. All right. So someone mentioned something interesting in the chat. Let me find it. I think I lost it. Oh, Black Anonymous says, wowzers. That's the light bulb, everyone. That's the light bulb. Because notice, Pennsylvania keeps saying throughout this law, your board, your trustees, your directors, your executives, your board, your trustees, your directors, your executives, because that's what you have to have in PA. But not so in Delaware. Not so. Okay. Something very interesting to know. Uh-oh, y'all. I think my allergies are kicking in. I'm feeling a little bit I'm feeling a little stuffed, like a little stuffy, you know? Hello to PGH Big Dog. How are you? Hello to Emmanuel Briggs. How's it going? So let's get back into this law. Let's round it up, shall we? Okay, so with each registration of statement, there should be a financial report, which we know. Let's dig in though. The financial report has to have a balance sheet. Oh my goodness. No wonder he allegedly reincorporated in Delaware. The financial report has to have a balance sheet, which includes statements of revenue, expenses, and changes in funding balances. Wow. Indicating the organization's gross revenue, the amount of funds received from all fundraising activities, and all other expenditures, including supplies, equipment, goods, services, programs, activities, etc. Wow. Did you all hear that? In the state of Pennsylvania, in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, he would have had to file every year, this financial report in which he explains every change in funding, what it was spent on, where it came from, and where it went. Wow. Okay. Can everyone hear me? Swanex is saying that he cannot hear me. So give me a 1 in the chat if you can hear me. I hope you guys can hear me. 1 in the chat if you can hear me. We're checking the audio because Swanex is saying he can't. Okay, all right. So everyone else can hear me. All right, Swanex, that might be you. Might be a you thing. Okay. This is detailed, everyone. This is detailed. Okay, so now we get into the auditing of the report. So notice you have to file the report. Okay. However, they're going to audit the report, meaning they're going to verify it with an independent accountant. If you receive annual contributions of $750,000 or more. Okay. Alrighty. So it still has to be filed, right? However, it's only verified by an independent, and that's what an audit is, by the way. Just so you all know, right? An audit is when something that you filed in relation to your company or yourself, right, is reviewed by an independent certified public accountant. Okay. Alrighty. Then they move on to governmental audits. And here they just discuss what happens during an audit. They talk about getting an extension to file this paperwork. And they talk about affiliates who may also have to file reports. Interesting. Now we get into fees. Here they mention department review. Okay, so here we go. This is pretty much the gist of what I was saying earlier. Okay. The department shall examine each registration statement and supporting documents filed by a charitable organization and shall determine whether the registration requirements are satisfied. So similar to what Shanoa was asking, right? Every single year, Umar Johnson would have to file this document. They would review it every year. Now, if they think that something is wrong, then they would pursue it. and he would automatically be audited if he garnered over $750,000 that year. Alrighty, so let me see. Yeah, the rest of this gets into registration, and we really don't need that part. Okay, so we have covered really the relevant portions of the law, at least for our purposes today. All right, so we are at 7:46. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to drop the link in the chat. All right, copy the clipboard. And I'm going to welcome people on up. All right. So people are welcome to come on back and ask me any questions you have. I think I'm also going to go ahead and share my screen and put a little visuals up. Let's see here. We don't really need the tab audio, right? Yeah, because we're not playing it for audio. Do that. There we go.
Shut up, nigga.
All right. Just so you guys get a little visual, okay? And fair use, okay? Fair use. All right, so the StreamYard link is in the chat. Come on back. Ask me any questions that you have about Umar Johnson's charitable status in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, about how this could affect him moving forward, etc., etc. And I hope you're enjoying the lovely visuals provided in the background of our conversation. Let me get that StreamYard link and copy and paste it again, because I know there's a lot going on in the chat. So yes, come on back, everyone. Come on back. Let's talk about this cease and desist. Let's talk about what this means moving forward. You know, I think it's very, very interesting that, well, as I've already stated, that the entire reincorporation process was initiated in Delaware, but also I think it's interesting the juxtaposition of Delaware as opposed to Pennsylvania. You know, Pennsylvania has, as we just saw, some very, very stringent requirements. I mean, wow, that yearly reporting is very, very strict. And again, you would have to have a board in Pennsylvania. You would have to have a board. PGA's Big Dog says that was the thug personality when he was mad at SETI. These are the entertaining visuals that are being provided for you today. Take a moment. All right, and while we get some people coming backstage, I'm going to go through the chat and shout out content creators. If you are a content creator and I miss you, please just drop a CC in the chat so that I know. All righty. So shout out to Nappy Yankee. He is a content creator. Shout out to Black Anonymous, another content creator. I am scrolling through because I feel like, let me see your transcript. She's a content creator. Swan X is a content creator. I think that's the only content creators we have in here, right, that I know of. I hope I didn't forget anyone. So if I forgot you, just give me a CC in the chat. Okay, SC is a content creator as well. All right. So yes, the StreamYard link is up. You're welcome to come backstage. Again, if no one is backstage within the next, I'm going to give you all the next 3 to 5 minutes to be nice, right? But if I don't see it moving and shaking after that, I'm out of here. I'm going to go and drink my tea and, what's going to be my snack? I wonder if I have any grapes left. If I have grapes left, I'm going to have some tea and some grapes for the rest of my evening. Do I have grapes left? It's a very good question. I'm not sure. Y'all, I eat a lot of grapes. It's like my favorite fruit. In our random conversation. Wisdom Over Feelings is a content creator as well. Check out Wisdom Over Feelings. Gary Hawkins has a question. He says, can Umar Johnson really be stopped? Well, it depends. As I've said in my previous video about Umar Johnson, it depends on what can be proved. And that is the biggest thing when it comes to Umar Johnson and FDMG. A lot of people are very upset about, the way that he's operated, and they feel that he's been stealing money, but all of these things are just accusations unless they can be proved. And a lot of these charitable statuses, there's no there's no corresponding criminal code per se. So, for example, with this Commonwealth of Pennsylvania situation, right? Okay, so they revoke Umar Johnson's FDMG status in Pennsylvania. Well, then he can just move on to somewhere else, right? It doesn't mean that he can no longer operate. So, this is a very, very gray area when it comes to charitable organizations and donations. And as I have said in the past, and I will continue to say, charitable organizations and donations do not have the same level of accountability as investors in a business. All right. We have someone joining us. Let's welcome Kim to the stream. Hello, Kim. How
Hi,
are you?
everybody. Hi, everybody. Hi, hello, Empowered Esquire. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I can't complain. I can't complain. I just have one question to ask your audience.
Yes.
This may seem like a dumb question, but here goes. Does anybody at this stage of the game think that Umar Johnson is actually trying to open a school?
Mm. That's a very interesting question. So let's give it some numbers so they can answer you. So put a one in the chat if you think that Umar Johnson is still actually really trying to open FDMG. Put a two in the chat if you think no, he's not actually trying to open a school. Let's see. We already see some no's rolling in, Kim. We see some no's. We see some no's. Someone hating on my snack. Someone said empowered grapes are not a
Oh,
real
Lord.
snack, but yes, they
Oh my
are.
goodness. Grapes are a snack.
I
They
love them.
are.
They are. Most okay, so we see the nose rolling in, Kim. So it looks like most people
Yeah.
no. Most people don't think
Yeah.
that he's actually trying to open a school.
So personally, this may be a little politically incorrect, but I'm to the point where if you really think that this man is trying to open a school, you probably need your head examined. Um, he's not trying to open a school. There's nothing that I have seen him do that would indicate to me that this is actually what he's trying to do. Now, why people are still giving him money, if people are still giving him money to the same degree that they may have been in the past when people really believed in what he was doing or believed in what he said he was doing. I don't think he's getting that much money, but I mean, it's like at this stage of the game, you have to know that he's not really trying to open a school. Um, I don't know the law, so I don't know, other than what you pointed out, what's different in Delaware versus Pennsylvania versus somewhere else. But it seems to me sooner or later somebody is going to catch up with this guy. There's another video, another content creator that I watch sometimes. I think his name is Pocket Watch or something. Um, uh, and he has a video where he broke down the whole 990N and the two different EIN numbers and him saying he didn't receive any donations for whatever year it was. And he juxtaposed it to a video in which Umar is fanning out envelopes going donations, donations, donations. So I mean, it's just pretty silly at this point. You know, I, I don't even know what else to say about this mess.
You know what? With that being said, we're gonna welcome R to the stage. Kim, you're welcome to stay. And as I've
Thank
said in the
you.
past, we don't know who's still donating to Umar Johnson at this point, right? But there are some people
Yeah,
that are still believing in whatever he says he's going to do. But as I've pointed out, I can't pretend to know what he intends to do, but I can say this for sure. If he still wants to open a school, he is hurting his own chances with the way that
I
he
would agree
behaved
with that.
with the way that he carries himself, and then furthermore with the fact that he has never been transparent with the financials.
I would agree with that much. Yeah. Well, thank you
Welcome to
for
the
having me.
stage, Art. Oh, you're welcome, Kim. Thanks for coming.
Oh, how are you doing?
I'm well. How are you, R?
Good, good. Thank you for this opportunity you're giving us. I have two main questions. The first one is how can anyone replicate the success that Pennsylvania has in what's that word? The solicitation, not solicitation, but the what was that word again?
Right, solicitation of donations.
No, no, I'm talking about the warning that they gave Umar.
Oh, the cease and desist.
Yeah, what's the best way to replicate that in other states? And then what is the best way to uh, to file a complaint? That's of the first question.
Mhm. That's an amazing question, R. So, as we've seen today, the reason that Pennsylvania has been able to make the stance that they've made, make the statement they've made, is because they have the legislation backing them. So any jurisdiction that wants to try to replicate this kind of regulation, they have to have the law backing them. As you can see, everything the Commonwealth is saying in their cease and desist, it is all validated by their Charities and Solicitation Act. And that does not exist in Delaware, right? So Delaware doesn't have the law to be able to take this sort of action. And quite frankly, they wouldn't want to. Because currently, as far as they're concerned, you only need one director, and FDMG has that, and you need to remain current. And to our knowledge, he's still current with them. But if there were some other jurisdiction that wanted to replicate this action, they would need to have this kind of law in place. A law that says, if you are a charity, register with me yearly. If you are a charity, give me your financials yearly. I'm going to review them. They would need to have that law.
And what would be the best way to file a complaint to maybe lobby them or persuade them to look in or make those changes, even regarding the situation?
I would recommend starting locally. So if whoever your local, well, depends on how local you want to be, right? You can be congressman local slash congresswoman local, or you can be councilwoman local. But I would recommend starting locally and saying, I think that there's an organization operating here that isn't registered here or that isn't current here. What can we do to protect the citizens? We voted you into this position as councilman or councilwoman or congressman or congresswoman, and you are there to represent our interests and protect us. And right now, you're not doing that. So we need to discuss what legislation we can get moving that would protect us from this organization.
So you're saying, oh yeah, oh yeah, you're saying that we can go to our Congress, men or women, and they would help us in our individual states
Right. Your
for
individual
shadow
area,
banning
take
FDMG.
local action in your area. Exactly. Exactly. Hmm.
So does that,
And
oh,
I just want to note very quickly, let me see your transcript is saying that you can file a complaint with the Delaware Division of Corporations, which you could, but what are you using to substantiate your complaint? Because Delaware has not sent him any sort of, that we know of, right? That we know of, Delaware has not sent him any revocation of his status, which means he's current in Delaware. So if you wanted to file a complaint with Delaware Division of Corporations, be sure that you're not filing a frivolous complaint. Be sure that you're filing a complaint that you have some sort of backing or substantiation, because as far as we know, in Delaware, he's current. Go ahead, R.
oh yeah, and the final question of, can you explain what that particular organization, let me see your transcript, said in Delaware, what they do, and can you tell us if there's any other action we can take in Delaware that would help them ban or shut down the FDMG nonprofit, put a dampener on it?
So the Delaware Division of Corporations is the division in Delaware that handles the registration, formation, and I guess you could say validation, didn't mean to sound like a preacher there, of corporations and nonprofit organizations in Delaware. As I was saying earlier, every state has their own department that does that. And the department is usually / always a part of the Secretary of State, because the Secretary of State is usually the entity that regulates that. So in every state, you can go to the Secretary of State website and type into their search, corporations, and it will pop up whatever their department is for corporations. And that's the department that you would want to speak to about a charity or a business that you think is doing something that they shouldn't be doing.
And is that the only thing, the only way you can complain?
For the most part, unless you file a complaint with the Better Business Bureau or something like that, right? But remember, when you file a complaint against the business or an organization, you want to complain to the organization that regulates them, right? That just kind of is the common sense flow of logic there. So you would want to file the complaint with the Division of Corporations or the Department of Corporations, because that is the entity that actually has power over them and regulates them.
And then you mentioned the Better Business Bureau. You can, do they do anything?
That's for businesses. And the Better Business Bureau, yes, they can take actions. They can send sanctions to the business. It also hurts the business's reputation, right? When you have these horrible reports against them issued by the Better Business Bureau. So something can be done on that end. But remember, that's for businesses. That's not for
complaint.
Charitable organizations. Right.
Okay. Well, thank you for answering my question.
You are very, very welcome. Welcome to the stream, Conundrum and NJB. Conundrum, we'll start with you. What's up? Conundrum, are you with us?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Hello, Conundrum.
I think the sound is out on my end. Let me see if I can leave out and come back in.
Okay, all right. So I guess Conundrum will come back to us. So hello to NJB. You've got the floor.
Greetings all. Just a quick question. Can one investigation in one state lead to another? In other words, if it is found that Umar Johnson is not legally operating in one state, can that lead to further investigations into practices and policies within the neighboring states?
It absolutely can. So this filing, if brought to the attention of Delaware, right, it could prompt Delaware to say, well, let's check and make sure he's current with us. Maybe we will audit him and ask for more financials. So absolutely, it could lead to other jurisdictions saying, oh, maybe we need to look into this FDMG organization.
May I ask a follow-up question?
Yes, but before you do, let me answer Chris Connor's question. So Chris Connor says, but doesn't he owe over $100,000 in unpaid back taxes? Wouldn't Delaware get involved regarding that? Yes, they would, but we have to remember, right, that the government is not a monolith. So what he owes, to our knowledge, is what? Property tax, right? So that's not the Division of Corporations. That would be whatever division in Delaware regulates properties and property tax. So yes, they could come after him for that, whenever they choose to, but that is not the same as his actual incorporation as FDMG, or as FDMG's incorporation, I should say. NJB, go ahead with your next question.
No need. You actually answered my follow-up question. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Conundrum, I see you're back. Are you ready? Oh, Conundrum.
Yes.
Oh, I see what happened. I can add you to the stream.
Okay, how you doing?
Ready?
Yeah, I am. So from what I've been able to read, I read over the document. I also read over the law that Pennsylvania is using to make that order. I ran into something extremely similar in New Orleans. We had a group called NOVIC, New Orleans Volunteers in Court, with Judge Calvin Johnson, retired, Morris Reed, and several other attorneys. And basically, Morris Reed's secretary failed to register the volunteer group with the state. We got the exact same letter, almost to the letter, wording back from the state of Louisiana. And what it took was a $125 filing fee, and it actually went away, and that was it. So what I think that a lot of people is really not getting is that this is a compliance order from the state of Pennsylvania. Am I correct?
Correct. It is that he needs to comply, and until then, he has to cease soliciting donations. Right. He can absolutely bring himself into compliance. He can. Right.
So I've looked it up, and if I'm not mistaken, I think it's like a 2-page form on the internet with the state of Pennsylvania, and I believe that the filing fee is $190, and that's it.
Well, that may not be the only thing he has to do, though. Remember, that's the piece that we're not sure of, because in that cease and desist, they use kind of like a stock language where they say, oh, it could be that you didn't register, or it could be that we need your financials.
Right.
So it can also be that they need his financials and they need that financial report.
And I thought about that as well. And, with that being relevant, you would think that would be worded in the order. However, it could be one of those things where they may actually want to talk to him verbally, or get an affidavit from him stating whatever they're, answering whatever questions they may have. But in a nutshell, it's a compliance order from what I've been able to gather.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I absolutely agree. As I said, I just want to clarify because, for some legal stuff and legal documents is really not something they're used to. So he cannot solicit donations under that incorporation for now. But as the caller is saying, he could come into compliance. He could, and then he could be able to again solicit, but he would have to come into compliance with whatever documentation the Commonwealth is saying he's missing.
So here's the question of the day, and I'll ask this question. I'll get the phone. So the order is coming from the state of Pennsylvania. How are they able to figure out who has jurisdiction in this matter? How can they prove what money is being collected from Pennsylvania or what money is being collected from other states? Because from my understanding, not all of his donations are coming from Pennsylvania, right?
Correct. I imagine. Well, I would imagine so. I would imagine that he's getting donations from probably all over the country, if not all over the world.
Correct. So I'm a bow out, but I appreciate talking to you. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So yes, the caller makes a good point. Now, there are sometimes, when the government will request that you do something that, quite frankly, they can't call you out on. Okay. So do I think that the Commonwealth has a way? Do I think that the Commonwealth has a way of actually tracking every single donation that Umar Johnson receives from a person in Pennsylvania? No. But they're trusting that them being the Commonwealth is scary enough for him to come into compliance, or for him to leave that incorporation in Pennsylvania and cease to solicit donations with that incorporation. Welcome, Nappy Yankee. I'm about to unmute you, and you can take the floor. Oh, wait. Before you take the floor, Nappy, let me answer this question. This is kind of along the line. So since the order comes from PA, does this stop him from soliciting donations in Delaware or anywhere else? Or does the cease and desist only apply to PA? So remember what we said. It applies to PA and it applies to this incorporation. So this EIN, this company that he had incorporated in PA, this organization, he cannot continue to solicit donations with that organization unless he's current elsewhere. But now remember, whatever he incorporated in Delaware is separate. And to our knowledge, that is still current. So he can solicit donations from anywhere with that. To our knowledge, that is totally separate and totally current. He can no longer solicit donations with the incorporation he has in PA, with that organization and that EIN. That is the information that we are working with currently. Okay, as I said, it's a gray area because technically you have the same man operating as director, but legally you have two separate organizations. All right, Nappy, you're up.
What's going on? What's going on? Empowered Esquire TV, everybody on the panel and everyone in the chat. Can you hear me, first of all? Because I'm in the car.
We can hear you in the car.
Okay, wonderful. So, a couple of things. First of all, you said this a few streams back, and you are absolutely correct regarding Umar Johnson. Umar Johnson could run this scam forever. All right, he can run this, and I'm calling him this. He's a con man running a scam. That's my mind. But he can run this forever. All right. And when I first saw this, I didn't do backflips like everyone else because, yeah, it's a hit, but it's only Pennsylvania. It's not like the FBI came and kicked down his door and dragged him out. Okay. It's just, and I'm not a lawyer or anything like that. I just saw, this is from Pennsylvania. They want him to stop. I'm guessing he can probably, if this is defunct, he can just change the name and then start collecting there again. I'm guessing, he can do that. Now, I did a stream yesterday, and I didn't want to attack this where I'm just going in on Umar. I already know what this is. The school is not going to open, blah, blah, blah. But I wanted to look at the other charities, other nonprofits that he was listed with. And if you look at the site, there are actually, I'd say about 100 plus charities that have a cease and desist. This is going back from 2015, and I guess the ones that he's with are recent, but he's up there for a reason. So I looked at the other charities, and some of them, because people were telling me that a lot of them do shady stuff themselves. Because mind you, Umar's not the only shady character out there. I mean, he's bad, but there are people that are worse. But they all showed their financials. And when I looked at the financials and the debits and everything, I saw 2 million, I saw 4 million, I saw 500,000. And the question some people need to ask themselves is, if Umar isn't collecting any money, because a lot of his supporters will say, he didn't collect $1 million. He hasn't collected all this money. Why is it that he is on the list with these guys who are in that tax bracket and in that monetary bracket? And the reason is because he's collected tons of money. And if he collected, let's say, because he's going to have to show the paperwork. Let's say if the paperwork shows that he collected $500,000 back when he bought the school in 2019, but he did no work on the school. So how do you sit down and say, okay, you collected all this money in 2019, you collected this in 2020, you haven't changed a sign, there are no contractors around, you understand? You have no team. Now, mind you, I don't think he even has to have a team. There's one nonprofit that was on that list. They're out of Connecticut. I don't have the name in front of me right now, but the nonprofit had 3 employees, and their revenue was $2.9 million. So Umar could be the only singular employee for FDMG and collecting 6 or 7 figures. All right. So, this is what people need to understand. And also, this last thing, what did Umar win? Like, people, if you speak to some of his supporters aren't even interested in saving Black boys. When you ask them, well, don't you want to say they're not interested in that? They'll tell you themselves they'll never send their own kids to school, to that place. They'll be under, so they already know it's a scam. But what did Umar win? Did he win the chance to collect more money? For what? If it's not about Black boys, what is he collecting money for? So my question is, what did this man win? Did he just win the opportunity to collect money? And if he's collecting money, for what? And no one's going to hold him accountable to that. So, that's basically all I want to say for now. And, everyone on the panel, you can say, and shout out to Conundrum, by the way, the guy you just spoke to, he goes to my channel a lot. He's a lawyer himself. So this is why he's a bit more, he came at you from that angle.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't feel like he came at me or anything.
No. He didn't come at you. I'm just saying he looks at it a certain way. So I understand, but he's a lawyer himself, and he's a
Conundrum. Why did you not tell us that? Conundrum, you hid the lead. You should have led with that. You should have led.
Well, he's a Q dog too. That's why he calls himself Conundrum. So
Well, I doubt he calls himself that. I'm sure that's probably his line name, right? Conundrum. You want to clarify that in the chat? That's probably my line name is Eloquence, by the way. All right, so let me answer this question. So Cyrus's question is, what happens if he ceases? So as I said before, if he just stops, if he does not solicit donations in the Commonwealth, if he doesn't try to do any fundraising activities in the Commonwealth, if he just totally stops even saying that FDMG is in any way operative in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, he's good. Because all they're asking him to do is to stop or come into compliance, right? So if he chooses to actually stop, then as far as we've seen thus far, no further action would happen. Which again is why I say a charitable organization and donations is not the same as a business and investors. That is why I have been saying from the beginning that if you were allegedly trying to get a school built, you should have a business and people should be investors because there's a higher level of responsibility there. With a charitable organization, they revoke your status. If you don't want the status back, you don't comply, and then that's it. That's it. All righty. R, I think you said you had something you wanted to ask a question. Oh, Kim, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just wondering, since he's claiming to have this organization to open a school, would it be effective if people are not liking what he's doing to write a letter to, say, the Delaware Department of Education?
Well, you could do
myself.
You could do that, but here's the thing. He doesn't technically have a school yet, right? So to our knowledge, what he has right now is a building, right? Is a building that he says he wants to become a school. Now, of course, he would need certifications and licenses and all these things, but to our knowledge, he hasn't even applied for any of those things yet. So maybe you could say to the Department of Education in Delaware, we want to make you aware of something preemptively. Yeah, maybe that would be useful. But here's the thing. From what I know about running an actual accredited and licensed school, it is a rigorous process to get those licensing and certifications. Let me tell you, even to open a daycare, Kim, is a rigorous process for licensing and certification. So I would imagine a school is even more rigorous. And I would also imagine that FDMG couldn't pass that process. And, I very rarely do I say things like that. And I say, never say never. But the FDMG that we see now probably could not pass that process. So if someone has spare time and they want to, I guess they could, but I don't think it would be necessary.
Thank you.
Let me say this too, because like I said, when I initially saw this, and people, it is a big deal. It's a big deal because he's going to have to show those financials. That's a big deal, especially if they push forward with it. Eventually, he's going to have to show financials. But a lot of people, and you were just on, Information Man show you with the Nature Boy and everything. And I've listened to other people online, and they will say things like, well, such and such is innocent because they're not in jail. Like, you'd be surprised how many people would say, well, Polite is not in jail yet. But the next hearing is on Friday the 13th of next month. The process is still going on. And I believe you said that it's a slow process, Felicia, for this to go through because it's a minor. And Nature Boy, they said, well, he hasn't been arrested. It's just our warped way of thinking that, oh, well, he's not locked up. So what is he doing wrong? Or what is, like, why are you going after him when you're seeing that there's no transparency in what he's doing? With all the nonprofits, what I've seen with all those other people, there is transparency, because with nonprofits, you see the board, you see even the one that had the 1 or 2 employees, they had the names of the employees and the financials. Because if you're a nonprofit, you have to be transparent. And for some reason, the accountability level that some of us have with some of our people, for the sole purpose of, well, we don't want to take a black man down, or we don't want to see him lose, when the fact is he's in essence using the very white man system that he claims to be against to scam us. So it's crazy. The nonprofit and their laws he's using to literally scam us. So just because he's not in jail or he's not locked up doesn't mean that he's not doing something that is massively unethical, but against his own people. So I just wanted to, make that point.
And I wanted to add to Nappy Yankee's point, because some people don't even know the complexities and also the possibilities of a 501c3. So for those of you who don't know, Umar Johnson does not have to pretend, allegedly, that he garners $0 from his work for FDMG. He doesn't have to do that. Do you know that 501c3 workers can be paid? Yeah. So he could be transparent and he could say, yes, as director of FDMG and also as development director, because I also do fundraising, and also as logistics director, because I also direct the expansion of the organization, I garner $70,000 per year, which is market rate for a director in my field. And he could pay himself $70,000 a year. A 501c3 can pay their employees and their board members. You do not have to be a board member for free. So what you're seeing is just a refusal to be transparent. That's it. A 501c3 can make money, it can pay employees, it can even own subsidiaries that are for profit.
Now, let me ask you a question. If you have a nonprofit, I just want to, confirm. It actually just 2 things. If you have a nonprofit, by law, do you have to be transparent with everything?
What do you mean by everything?
Everything meaning the financials, who's on the board, how the money's being spent, everything. Because I saw in those other organizations, they had their expenses, their debits, how much was made, and so on. And that's what I mean. Do you have to be transparent with absolutely everything?
For the IRS, you have to be very transparent. So as you know, with the IRS, yes, you have to tell them every donation collected, where that donation went. You have to tell them what you are paying your board members, what you are paying your executives, if you're paying them, right? And where the money that you are paying them comes from. Yes. Right. For the IRS purposes, you have to be very transparent. But again, it doesn't mean that you can't. You don't have to work for a nonprofit for free. You just have to report it.
Right. This video that you have right here, I mean, when people say why you shouldn't even deal with Umar, this video alone, forget all the detractors and something. If anyone asks me about Umar Johnson, I would just refer him to this video. If this video alone doesn't tell you that this guy's off, all right, and there's many videos. And here's what's so crazy about it. The Nature Boy situation, how was he taken down, or how is he getting taken down? With all the antics he's done on social media, Umar doesn't realize. I mean, this is just one crazy video. There's all the videos he's spittling in front of the camera in cemeteries. The video when he was talking about cope. There's so many. The video where he was literally physically threatening people. All right, this is all on social media. All of this, everything. So it's clear that he doesn't have people around him, or he just doesn't listen and just says the hell with everybody. But this right here, all of this stuff can incriminate him to the end. And he's also said, and if the IRS goes after him, he's had a lot of videos where he's mentioned certain figures. He's mentioned 500,000, 750,000. He's mentioned $1 million at one point. He's mentioned so many figures. How would that affect him if, say, the IRS and the feds really sink their teeth into him? How will those videos hurt him?
Those videos will absolutely hurt him if they really, like you said, sink their teeth into him, because there are numerous videos where he mentions trips being taken and book sales, but then those things are mentioned kind of in conjunction with donations for FDMG. So if they decided to take an interest, I'm sure that one of their questions would be, well, who paid for that trip? Because it sounds like you really traveled to sell your book, right? So did FDMG pay for that trip? Because that wasn't really an FDMG trip, right? So these are all questions that if they really came down on him, he would have to answer, and it would be very interesting to see him answer them.
And I understand, and there's a small part of me kind of understands why some people are rooting. Some people are rooting for him, understand, because they like the effery, they like chasing clout and everything. But some people think that he's actually going against the system. Like they see this and they're saying, oh, he screwed over a state. You know what I'm saying? And which he really didn't. But this is how they're looking at it. He got over on a state and he's fighting for us. No, what he's doing is unethical stuff, and he's using your money to do it. And what's crazy is somebody left a comment in my video saying, oh, Umar can just kind of switch it up and everything. And, this is how businesses do it. I don't have it in front of me now, but one of the things that his supporters say is that, well, Umar's a bad businessman. I think that's what's really his problem. So wait a minute. The narrative was he was a bad businessman before. Now, if he gets out of this, he's a good businessman. I mean, it's when you deal with these people, they're going to tap you out, because it's like, no matter how logical you come at them, they're going to just throw something out there to try to make them win. And it's crazy.
Well, as I've said, as you've said, Nappy, he has the separate status in Delaware. So more than likely, he's going to just keep on rolling. That's more than likely. I don't envision him actually filing any financial reporting with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. I just don't see that happening. Did you have something you wanted to add to the conversation? I think you mentioned that you did.
Yes, I had some legal speculation. It's not much of a detour. I just have a question about non-profits, and well, not just. I have a scenario of non-profits and how it relates to unknown real estate or corruption. I say unknown because Umar has turned down help many times. Lennon Honor spoke of it. There's no construction. He beefs with people who could help him. His rants, there's no team whatsoever. A lot of people are floating that there's a second trust possible deed, and he doesn't really own it. I also noticed that Delaware has a corporate firewall in which I believe not just corporations, but LLCs or whatever he has, it can be hidden in terms of ownership. The Brown House document said that the Brown Field document, Delaware said that the FDMG was going to be torn down before it was bought by Umar Johnson in 2019, but they haven't heard from him about what he plans to do with it. And he won't.
You're jumbled for me. I don't know. I don't know if you're jumbled for everyone else, but for me, your audio was jumbled.
Yeah, you were borging.
Did you hear him?
He was borging.
Okay,
borging.
Yeah, now you're better.
Okay, I'm better now. Okay. I was mentioning that the nonprofit unknown and how it
You're
relates to
bargaining again.
unknown
It's
real
happening
estate
again.
turned down.
It's happening
Oh,
again.
it's happening again?
Yeah, you were
Yeah, it's happening
borging.
again.
You can't understand me?
Now you are.
May
You
I?
can hear me now.
Yes.
All right, we'll let you try one more time, or if it doesn't work, we'll move on to Kim, and then I'm going to shut down the panel.
So yeah, I was saying that there's some questions about, does he have a second trust deed? Delaware has some type of obfuscation when it comes to who owns an LLC, whatever corporation. And the Moyer Academy / New Moyer Academy was involved in corruption in the past with its owners, both the Moyer and New Moyer. Some prove this. It might be a suspicion, but it is backed by a little bit of evidence, since the Brown document said that Umar hasn't done anything since 2019.
Okay, well, your audio still wasn't great. It was still kind of bad. But I think you were referring to whether or not FDMG actually owns that building, and that conversation has been
Correct.
happening before. But I never really looked into it too deeply, so I couldn't speak on that. Kim, you had something you wanted to add?
Can I be heard?
Yes, Kim, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. I just want to say has nothing to do with anything except for I just want to say it. I love Nappy Yankee's speaking voice. I really do. Anyway, I wanted to kind of,
is this a love hookup going on here, Nappy? You may want to hit up Kim
no,
on
not like that. Not like that. I like his speaking voice. I like his accent. I like his speaking voice. You know, it's sisterly love. I just wanted to say, I wanted to kind of piggyback on what the previous speaker was saying, is that, it's the dirty shame of it all. And I believe Black Anonymous said it in the chat, is that Umar has squandered so much goodwill from the Black community. You know, he's, cursed people out who offered him help. He's, rejected help from people. All these shenanigans that he's done, in addition to all of the money he's collected from people with no transparency, he has just squandered and wasted so much goodwill from Black folks that it concerns me that the next person who comes along and has an idea and who may be legitimate, they're not going to get the kind of support that they may normally get because, we've been collectively burned by Umar Johnson. And that's just really the shame of it all, in my opinion. Just all the goodwill that he squandered and threw away.
Well, that's possible, but I'm going to say this. What you just said about Umar Johnson was said about Marcus Garvey. And as you can see, all these years later, people still, and mind you, let me be clear, I'm not saying whether I agree with that or not, but this is what people said about Marcus Garvey, which led to his conviction. But anyway, and as you can see, all these years later, we are all still donating. So never fear. We will continue to donate, and we'll be having a similar conversation about someone else in 50 years.
I don't know anybody named we. I think you're speaking French.
Well, let me say this.
Donated to this nonsense.
Let me say this. First of all, Umar is no Marcus Garvey. Let me get that out of the way. And also, when you said that people are going to be sort of hesitant to donate to someone else, I mean, I think that we're a lot smarter than that. And if you see a dude come out like sitting in a hotel room like this, right, in a beanie, cussing out and just going on an hour rant, I think that, right-minded people will say, yeah, I don't think this guy is fit to run an ice cream stand, much less run a school, and anyone who's still believe, even if the school opens, which it won't, but if it opens, you really want this guy running it? Seriously? And a little fun fact, by the way, from someone who from the area, Umar supposedly worked at the Moyer Academy at one point, which is why he knows his way around it. So that's just a little fun fact. I mean, that someone who's familiar with that area said he actually used to work there. So I don't, again, there's enough legitimate black schools out there, and Umar is a lesson. When you look, he really taught me a lot on how to spot out scamsters. Like it, I when I saw Umar, and I didn't, kiss his behind, but I supported him. But then I saw what he was doing, and then I was against him. And then when I look at people like Jay Morrison, right away I'm like, okay, this dude's a con man. So I think when you look at the Umar saga, it teaches you how to point out what and who the scammers are. So I don't think that I think people are going to support legitimate businesses. I think black people are a little smarter than that.
Right. So, yep, I agree. I think we will continue, or I'm not going to say we, because there's no we. So I think by and large, the Black community will continue to support endeavors and support people that are doing good things.
Yeah. There's enough examples. Don't let this clown, disappoint you. Just at this point, he's comedy at this point, and we're just waiting to see where the saga leads next.
So listen, I want to say thank you to my amazing panelists. Everyone who joined us, including Kim, Nappy Yankee, R, Conundrum. Am I missing someone? No, I think that's it. And everyone in the chat, Space 93, Senior A. Jones, Tristan McGregor, Key Film and Media, everyone, Black Butterfly, Mark Daniels. Thank you all so much for joining me on this installment of Empowered Esquire TV. I hope you feel empowered by the legal knowledge that was shared today. You bring something unique to this world, to my life, to this channel, and I love you for it. And I hope to see you next time. And if you're replay gang, let us know what you think about this latest development in FDMG, and do you think that it will even affect the FDMG machine at all, or will it just keep on rolling? I'll see you next time.
All right, thanks.